Hello everyone, welcome to the third and last video for building your apparatus. So in the first video, we did the first part where we created the end with our tubing. So we have this part done. So this is going to go into the Erlenmeyer flask where the yeast is going to go, and you're going to collect your gas through the tubing from your Erlenmeyer flask. The other part in the second video, I showed you how you can insert your graduated cylinder into the full container. And notice the water's a little bit higher. That might be okay. I think that should be okay as we bubble the water. So this you might lower the volume of the water, and that should be fine. Um, so now we have this part done. And so now what we need to do, and let me adjust my computer. What we need to do is we need to take this part and get it underneath. Now, what you could do, or you could try, and you might be successful, is stick your hand in the water and just finagle with it and get it in there. That might work, but you might make a mess, and you might mess up this part and have to redo it. So the one way you could do it that would be probably easier is if you can create this as a hook. And then if you could make a hook, then you could put it into the water and just hook it underneath um, the into the lip, underneath the lip of the graduated cylinder. So what you need is a rubber band. So you got a rubber band, you need a rubber band. If you don't have a rubber band, a hair band might work too. So look for something like that. And so you're going to bend your hook and then bend your hook like this. Okay, so you're going to bend your hook, or bend your tubing into a hook, excuse me, like this. And then what you can do is take the rubber band. Now this rubber band is a little too big, so I'll have to double it up, which is fine. If your rubber band is still too big, you might have to triple it up. So here I'm going to double this up and see how that works. Doubling it up seems to work. So there's your hook. You might make it longer or shorter depending on whether it's successful or not. So we'll try this. Okay, so then what you can do is notice that the rubber band is keeping it bent. So now all I have to do is I put it in the water, right? So the tube is now going to be filled with water to some degree. And now what I can do is I can lift up. Let me show you what I'm doing so you can see. Let me bring this closer. Okay. So what you can see is I've got my hook here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to position it so that it can fit underneath the graduated cylinder, and I can move my graduated cylinder over and I can rest it on top like so. So now you can see, hopefully, so you can see that the end of my tubing is inside the graduated cylinder. So I used the rubber band to create a hook, and then I just hooked it under by lifting up the graduated cylinder. So there it is. So now just be careful you don't disturb it, and now you have your apparatus. So that's what it should look like when you're done. So at some point you're going to want to put yeast in here. You're going to set this up, and when you put the yeast, so you're going to have a bag of yeast, approximately 1 gram of yeast. That's a little backwards for you. And then when you are ready, you are going to uncap this, dump in whatever amount of yeast you need to dump in, and quickly seal it up. And then what's going to happen is the gas is going to be produced by the yeast. It's going to go through the tube and bubble into your graduated cylinder. Okay. One thing I noticed is somehow, if you look here, I've got air in there. Okay. So if you find that you've got air in there, rather than start over, what you can do is you can measure the amount of air using the gradients on your graduated cylinder. So you could look on the gradients here, you can measure it and say, okay, that's each one is a milliliter. So you count the number of lines, you measure that, you write it down, and then you start collecting your gas. So make sure you look here first before you start the experiment to make sure that there's no gas there, there's no air in there. If there is, then you need to measure how much air is in there before you begin, and then you're going to subtract that out from the total after your experiment is over. So check this first before you start, but this is the way you set it up. Okay. Good luck, everyone, and I hope you get some good results. Have fun. Be safe. Bye.